Hey everyone, welcome again to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I am Jordan Smith. And if I were to tell you that the movie we're going to be talking about is a musical movie that premiered in the 60s starring Julie Andrews, where she plays a character that acts as like a guide slash motherly figure to multiple kids, some of you may initially think of Mary Poppins, which is very understandable. However, we're talking about another movie that follows that premise that came out around the same time. I think it was about a year apart. The Sound of Music.
Yes, very similar feel to it. It's The Sound of Music, based on the musical of the same name by Rodgers and Hammerstein, the creators of The King and I, South Pacific, and other musicals. And I wanted to do this because I have some we have some good friends who have volunteered in the cast of Artists Unlimited who recently played in a production of that same musical. And so this is especially for them. And it's a good musical. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it. And so I thought it would be good to talk about this one.
It actually has quite an interesting history. For those that don't know, the people in this story were actual real people.
Yeah.
Uh, and from what I understand, the actual Maria, the character that Julie Andrews plays, um, she wrote the story in book form. Then that book got adapted into a musical, and then that musical eventually got adapted into a movie.
Yeah.
So it's been in all sorts of forms. And I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, but I guess in one of the songs, the actual Maria von Trapp makes a brief appearance in the film. It's
Yeah.
non-credited, but she's in there.
Yeah, I actually just read that.
I think it's during the
Uh,
what I can't remember the exact name of the song. It's like something confidence, like I have
yeah, yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, it's that one.
I didn't think to watch that scene beforehand to verify, but yeah, apparently that's a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but for those who may not have seen this movie before, even though it's just over 60 years old right now, this movie has Julie Andrews. We'll just kind of go from beginning to end in this movie because I kind of already gave a synopsis at the beginning. Uh, but the movie opens with her just in this open field, just expressing her love for music with that opening iconic line, "The hills are alive with the sound of music." And after she's done singing, she realizes that she's not where she's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's pretty established early on that Maria von Trapp, or Maria Rayner, as her birth name is a little bit more of a free spirit. She's a nun in training, but known for not exactly doing stuff by the book, which is kind of the focus, humorously enough, of the next song, Maria, the one that goes, "How do you solve a problem like Maria?" Which is probably one of my personal favorites because it's like the superior nuns kind of discussing, is Maria right for this? Is she a bit too unorthodox for this? And they're kind of talking about, she's got her flaws, but she's also got her pros, and it's like critical and affectionate at the same time.
And I gotta give them credit because considering that she's sometimes late and she doesn't follow all the same steps that all the other nuns follow, they could potentially scold her or get really angry with her. But instead, like the top nun, I don't know if there's an official title for it, she brings her aside and basically says, "We don't think this is for you."
Yeah, at least not yet.
Right. So what they end up doing is assigning her to be a governess for this Von Trapp family, which is where she meets them. And from what I understand, a governess is kind of like a nanny, except she takes on a more motherly type role.
Yeah, I think of it as pretty much like a nanny. And, yeah, I think that's probably the best description I can think of.
Sure, and it's very similar to Mary Poppins. I just wanted to try and distinguish one from the other. But she gets in there, and this is like a big house.
Yeah.
It's like a mansion, essentially.
Yeah.
She eventually runs into Mr. Von Trapp, played by Christopher Plummer, I think is his name.
Yep.
When I actually found out, that kind of surprised me, but I found kind of fascinating, is that this may be one of his most well-known roles, if not the most well-known role, at least from my generation. But people may be more familiar with him than they realize. For example, for anyone who's a Pixar Disney guy, he was the voice of Charles Muntz in the movie Up.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either until I did some research into him and see what his previous roles were, and then that popped up. It's like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like, some younger kids might be more familiar with Julie Andrews' voiceover work in the Shrek sequels and Despicable Me than they probably are of this film and Mary Poppins. Well, Mary Poppins, I kind of feel like most everybody knows, but you know what I mean?
I definitely do, and I feel like even if they've never seen the Mary Poppins movie before, they at least are aware when they hear the name Mary Poppins that Julie Andrews played her.
Yeah.
In any case, she meets him, and after a brief introduction, I believe, he introduces her to the kids, except he doesn't call for them in a traditional sense. Instead, he summons them with a whistle.
Yeah. It's basically this captain, this patriarch, Captain Georg von Trapp, is a naval officer or retired naval officer, and ever since he's lost his wife, he's become very military in the way he approaches his parenting. He's like calling them with like a military whistle. He's got very specific guidelines, expectations, like this is what everybody does at this time. This is how we do everything around here. He's very exact. He's soft-spoken, but at the same time strict, kind of no-nonsense.
Oh, he's very strict for sure. Like, one of the kids, when he summons them, comes in casually while reading a book, and he smacks her in the behind with the book.
Yeah.
And this is something that has been done before and since in various films. Like, one that comes to mind is The Little Mermaid, where one of the parents passes away, and then the other parent just despises anything that is associated with what caused that parent's death. In the Little Mermaid case, it's just humans in general, so Ariel was forbidden from interacting with humans at all. And in this movie's case, not only is he really strict, but while I don't know if it was ever said, he basically forbid music.
Yeah, I believe so.
So while all the children are there and they introduce themselves, he then has her try using the whistle, but to no avail, which makes sense. She has no idea what she's doing. And I believe soon after he leaves for a little while, and I'm honestly surprised he did, because after meeting her and realizing the position she just put herself in, it's like, does he really trust this woman with his kids to carry on the parenting that he's been doing.
Yeah, well, I think he really needed to be somewhere, I guess, for military duty, and I guess he didn't know what else to do. He figured, I don't have time to deal with this right now. I've got somewhere to be. I don't know.
Sure. And also, like in Mary Poppins, the kids in question have gone through several people before she got there. And when she did, she basically took his parenting style and almost immediately threw it out the window. She decided not to use the whistle, period, and had them reintroduce themselves just by asking them to.
Yeah.
She decided she'd take a much more gentle approach. And this is something you will also often see in various films where when an adult is placed with a group of kids that they have to care for or watch, something to that effect, the connection between them is usually not very strong right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty evident that, well, at least some of the kids don't immediately or that quickly warm up to her. They don't seem too thrilled, and especially the eldest one, Liesel, who's kind of a self-sufficient, typical rebellious teen.
Yeah, she's at that age where she believes she doesn't need to be told what to do or anything of that sort. I mean, she still follows her father's orders, but that may be at least partly out of fear.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what would happen if she stepped out of line.
Yeah, right.
But then, she starts getting more familiar with them. And while this is all going on, Liesel has this somewhat secret connection with this boy that's about a year older than her.
Yeah, I believe he's like a courier for the family or something.
Something to that effect, yeah. And it leads into one of the many popular songs that come out of this movie, 16 going on 17.
Yeah.
And he starts singing about how, like, she's her own woman, and then he's 17 going on 18, so he's becoming an adult. By the end of it all, they feel an even stronger connection. And it's not like the biggest focus in the film, but it does have some potency later after they discover where he's gone and what he's been doing. But that's practically right near the end of the movie. So we'll get to that later on. And then at some point, the captain comes back, and I know they have this dinner scene. I didn't watch the entire film, full disclosure, for this episode. I watched a few scenes to get more familiar with it.
Yeah.
Because I have seen this movie a bunch of times. And for whatever reason, not to get too off track, but for whatever reason, they seem to play it a lot at Christmas time every year. Or at least once or twice. But
yeah. Even after after seeing the musical and seeing this movie on Disney Plus, I still haven't quite figured out the Christmas connection. I like to guess maybe it was because of the time in which this true story, and this is a true story, by the way,
yes,
of like World War II era Europe or something like that. And and goes into like the rising power of the Third Reich and the Nazi Party, and yeah, I'm not sure what time of year exactly this actually occurred in, but maybe it was around Christmas time and we just don't know.
It is entirely possible. I believe, location-wise, at least for this movie, they were in Austria.
Yeah.
But it was getting annexed by that regime.
Yeah.
But at least for the time, as Maria is getting closer to these kids, they're still pulling the occasional prank. There was one where they were eating dinner and they put something on her chair. And, of course, the father wasn't too happy. Because he wants everything to be exact. He wants everything to be in order. Kind of like, not to draw too many comparisons to the Mary Poppins story, but kind of like Mr. Banks with the whole precision and order thing.
Right.
Eventually, though, she does get on their good side. And this primarily happens when there's a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Where at least the girls come into her room initially, and they're like, oh, the boys don't get scared. And then they just immediately rush into the room the next time there's a sound of thunder. So she takes this opportunity to bond with them by saying, hey, when I get scared or I'm down, I just start listing some of my favorite things, and she starts to do that in song form.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite scenes because there's this great moment where Maria is kind of like she's on her knees by her bedside, praying for everything to go well, and then she craftily adds in her prayer, it's implied that she knows that Liesl is right there and she's just snuck in her window after being out in the rain with that boy. Mm-hmm. She adds, and please help Liesl to know that I'm her friend and to tell me what she's been up to. And she doesn't even turn or even have to see her, apparently. And she just somehow has a feeling or something.
It's entirely possible that off screen it's happened more than once, or she's started to act suspicious and she was catching on. Yeah. And she figured if anybody's going to be crawling through that window right now, it'd be her.
Yeah. And the moment that the girls say the boys don't get scared, it's like, at least in the musical, immediately thunder crashes and the boys run in. And I remember being at the recent production of the musical and hearing people laugh at that.
It is a very funny scene, I will say that, especially with the timing that they gave. At the same time, it does have an element that I appreciate, because it has an underlying message that, guys also get scared.
Yeah.
So she takes this time, and also during the prayer, she's listing all the different kids, and then she forgets one of them.
Which I seem to have a habit of doing myself, because there are 7 of them. I feel like in order to be fully confident, I have to kind of pull up a full list of them, or I can usually get 6 down, no problem, but I really have to dig into my brain to get the last one. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm bad with names in general anyway, but when there's a list of them and I'm trying to remember which one is which, I usually do forget 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But I do remember at least one, because it's the one that she forgets initially. And then when the kids come into the room, they say his name, and she's like, Kurt, that's the name I forgot. God bless Kurt.
Yeah. And Maria's kind of funny. She's always got this sort of positive, cheery spirit, even in moments like that where she has a lapse in memory. She just kind of, oh well, God bless what's his name.
Yeah, there are very few moments in this film where even if she didn't have the most optimistic seeming attitude, she at least tried to keep things positive.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes her so endearing, and even I think the nuns, even in that earlier song, kind of acknowledge that more or less, and deduced that she may not be that orthodox or that traditional, but she is very heartwarming.
Oh yeah, she's not doing anything inherently evil.
No,
it's just she's not
what she's expected to be.
Yeah. Yeah, she's just not doing the traditional nun behaviors and such. And then she bonds with them even further later And I looked this up. Apparently, the order of songs in the film are a little different from the stage version.
Yeah, I know that because I've seen both now.
Right. So, like, for example, from what I can see on my list here, 16 on going on 17 comes after the other songs like My Favorite Things and the song we're about to get into, Do Re Mi, whereas in the film, 16 going on 17 comes before both of those. But yeah, then she gets into that other song, Do Re Mi, and honestly, this song might be one of the primary ways I learned about scales and singing and at different notes and pitches. Because not only was it catchy, it was honestly a fun way to learn it.
Yeah, and you remember when our director in our recent Artists Unlimited concert jokingly quoted the first couple lines of it?
I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
It's like when our musical director was doing these different hand gestures and having us kind of switch between the different sounds, this scene is what I was thinking of. Like every time, well, not every time, I guess, but a few times when she would do the note do, I wanted to follow it up with a deer, a female deer.
Of course, yeah. And inevitably, most times, if not every time, when we would go through the exercise, I would think of our friend who played Maria and kind of remember her singing it in the show, and maybe thinking of probably thinking about how happy she was to get the role, and just it was it definitely brought back some good memories.
Oh, I'm sure it did, and I'm hoping at some point, because I don't have immediate access to this film, every once in a while, movies will be free with ads or something on YouTube, so maybe I'll keep a close eye on this one so I can watch it again.
It is on Disney Plus if you have that.
I don't have immediate access to any streaming services, but I have several friends who do, including the house where I'm currently staying because I'm watching somebody's cat. So I might actually do that either tomorrow or the next day. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But like I said, really love this song. Really educational for me when I was growing up. And I think a big reason for that is because not only was she putting emphasis on each note, but like with the deer, female deer thing, she associated something with each one.
Yeah.
Like Do was the deer, Ray was a drop of golden sun, me referring to myself. Fa was kind of a stretch because it wasn't a full word, but they used it to say a long, long way to run.
Hey, it's got to work musically somehow.
Oh yeah, and if you say it just right, it still works.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like, how our musical director at AU kind of tells us not to put so much weight on the R sound, kind of has us do like ah instead. Yeah, and it sounds better that way anyway. She's right.
Of course, the funny thing is, part of the reason she said not to do that is because it would make us sound like pirates. And since we're doing Peter Pan this upcoming season, which will start in a few weeks, some of us will sound like pirates.
Yeah, so we might have a little more freedom this time.
A little bit, although I'm sure with some of the songs, depending on which ones, they may still be like, hey, even though you're playing a pirate, don't sound overly like a pirate.
Yeah, possibly.
Like even Captain Hook, the head of the pirates, he is a pirate, but he still has a Shakespearean, sophisticated kind of approach.
Oh yeah, sure.
In any case, not to get too far off track again, I realize I do that a lot. By the time they get to this song, she's taken some of the curtains that were in the house and made, as she referred to them, as play clothes for each of the kids, which is much to the chagrin of Captain Trap.
Whom, from what I understand, doesn't really allow them to go out and play.
Which is made evident by, after he returns from where he was, one of the first things he sees is all of them in these play clothes climbing around in a bunch of trees. Then when he gets back to the house, he sees them on the water in this big boat that then capsizes. So now, not only are they in these play clothes, playing around, but now they're soaking wet, looking like an absolute mess. And he has them all go inside while he talks to Maria. And she basically, well, there is a bit of a conversation there, but it starts to get a little heated. And this is kind of where you don't see her being too optimistic, where she really tries to persuade him to be more lenient with the kids and let them actually be kids and not soldiers. But then he starts to raise his voice, and he is on the brink of firing her at this point. But then he hears singing.
Yeah. And somehow that softens them a little bit and makes him reconsider.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of a memory trigger, or maybe the particular song they were singing at the time really triggered something and melted his heart, but it convinced him to let her stay, at least for the time being.
Yeah. Maria is basically telling the captain, your kids feel like they're not being heard, that they're not being taken seriously, that they're being looked down upon, and you really need to start listening to them, trying to understand them, which you haven't been even trying to do, is kind of her argument. And I suppose that when he hears these kids singing, he's slowly starting to get it. He's slowly starting to see that kind of their hearts, what they like, and he's really kind of starting to actually sympathize more or less with them.
He starts warming up to them, and he actually starts warming up to her. And while that's happening, she's starting to develop feelings for him.
Yeah.
Which she panics about because she doesn't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
And while this is all going on, Captain Trap has brought someone else to the mansion that he plans on marrying.
Yeah. This wealthy, sophisticated baroness, her name is Elsa Schrader. And she's, very fancy, got this sort of a kind of voice that screams golden age of Hollywood, and she's very quietly confident and very fancy, and it's pretty evident that she likes the captain, but is pretty reserved, it seems, about the kids, though.
And it may also be affecting her because at this point she still could potentially be a nun at some point. And nuns, from what I understand, because I'm not an expert on that, they don't get into a relationship with another person. Ever.
Yeah. And Maria returns to the monastery where she's been training up until this assignment to be a governess. Is basically tries to run away from this problem. She'd rather do that, honestly, than confront it. She doesn't really want to face her fear at this point. But after some gentle prodding from, I guess, her boss or supervisor, the Mother Abbess, she slowly opens up, spills about feeling romantic feelings for this captain. And feeling like, and kind of feeling like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't really be entertaining this kind of thought. I should get it out of my head. I need to focus on, my training to be a nun. And there's a refreshing response from the Mother Abbess that has kind of stuck with me when she says, a love between a man and a woman is also holy. Just because you love this man doesn't mean you love God less.
Which is honestly a good way to put it. And I think back to the very beginning of the Bible, right after Adam is created, God basically goes, it's not right for him to be alone.
Yeah, that is true.
So he creates Eve. And I gotta give props to the Baroness, because she did kind of persuade Maria to go back to the monastery, but it wasn't forced, I don't think. And then when she does come back, which honestly is another one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because the kids at this point, they're sad that Maria's gone and she never said goodbye. But then as they're singing My Favorite Things to try and cheer themselves up, they hear her in the distance singing it, and they all run towards each other.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how similar this is turning out to be to Mary Poppins, because toward the middle, Mary goes off kind of without a word, well, unless you count the note she wrote, au revoir, all that. Well, Maria didn't do any of that. She just took off. But yeah, it's kind of funny how similar.
Very true. Although there is a big difference between the two characters, at least when you're thinking about the stage version.
Yeah.
Because in the stage version of Mary Poppins, after she comes back, she kind of has this vocal duel with Miss Andrew, who was kind of taking over in more ways than one while she was there.
Yeah.
But in The Sound of Music, when she comes back, the Baroness catches on fairly quickly that the captain still has feelings for Maria, and kind of quietly just calls off the engagement and doesn't say, I can't believe you still love her, what about me?
No, we never really see her, or hear her, I should say, raise her voice. She's it's more like a fancy equivalent of whatever.
Yeah, and maybe that's just because she's a fancy prim and proper type of character, but who knows. So that gets called off, and then eventually Captain Trapp and Maria, they sing a song basically solidifying the fact that, they're in love with each other.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I can't remember exactly why, but I remember my mom saying that she didn't like that scene. And I wish I knew the reason, and unfortunately, obviously I can't ask her, but I didn't think there was anything particularly wrong with it.
I don't know. Seeing it the way it was kind of photographed, in the gazebo in the movie, it does kind of look a bit uncomfortable, but nothing naughty exactly goes on, I wouldn't say, but I don't know. Was it the movie version that she was uncomfortable with? Yeah. I don't know. It's my opinion, but...
We also find out in this scene that his feelings for her started to develop a lot sooner than one might have assumed. Because the dinner scene we talked about earlier, it's like, yeah, he was very strict on the outside, but he even admits to her that when she got pranked, he was inwardly laughing a little bit. So they develop this connection, then they decide to get married.
Yeah. It's kind of a nice little ceremony, and they actually reprise How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria. Yeah, and you could make the argument that it's more affectionate now than it was then. And Captain is up there on the altar in his military gear, which I think is normal when military men get married. They have their gear on. And, they tie the knot, have their honeymoon, and then by the time they're back, there's implications that Austria is kind of losing its identity by force to the rising power of the Nazi regime, which is pretty much taking the country over. The Nazi flag, or Third Reich flag, is being put up, I think, on the Von Trapp property, without consulting them. And this is when things really start to get dark and serious.
Yeah, this story easily could have ended with them getting married and they all live happily ever after. But, yeah, they get back from their honeymoon and they get, shoved right into the situation when I think it's the guy that Lisa shows up and passes him a telegram saying that he's being summoned to be part of the Nazi naval force. But being the Austrian patriot that he just outright refuses. And he knows that if he does that, he and everyone associated with him is going to be in major trouble.
And so things really start to get pretty sad. Lisa is kind of seeing her boyfriend or love interest's true colors. He's probably, you could say, amoral, not exactly a person who has values. He just kind of does what the crowd wants, arguably. And you could say the same for Max, who kind of organizes the family to do a singing performance at a local music festival, which the family does perform in right before the captain is expected to go into military duty in Germany. And so they do the show, and it's like this big talent competition, and they end up winning first prize. But when their victory is announced, they've mysteriously disappeared, and it's unknown, at least for a moment, where they went. But we soon find out that they are hiding in the Abbey Monastery from the Nazis.
And they're able to get away for multiple reasons. One, because they were able to swipe one of the cars, and the nuns at the monastery, and this scene made me laugh too, they go up to, again, the top nun, I forget what her name is.
Abbess.
Abbess, that's right. They confess to her, "We have sinned," and they're like, "Well, what is this sin?" And they just hold up some of the car parts, implying that they sabotaged the cars of the people following the Von Trapp family so they couldn't chase them. And they start to get away, and they run into the boy that Lisa liked one more time. And now he's in a position where he could alert the regime that he found the family.
He could blow their cover. He could rat them out. And for a while it might look like he's going to do it. He's going to stick to his guns of doing the expected. But but ultimately he chooses not to and instead helps them hide.
He does help them hide, at least in the stage version.
Yeah.
I believe what happens in the film is that Captain Von Trapp goes up to him, has a delicate conversation, basically kind of persuading him not to do it. And while I don't remember the exact wording, the last thing he says basically makes all his effort for naught. He says something like, "You'll never be one of them," or something to that effect. And that might have triggered the boy to basically turn around and alert his now allies. And at this point, the family has to keep running because now the regime knows where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And it pretty much ends not exactly with a happily ever after. It wasn't just the marriage story that didn't have the happy ever after tied up in a bow ending, but the whole story itself. Because you could arguably say there's no resolution, it's not tied up in a neat bow. But in a way, it works really well that way because, solutions in life aren't always that easy. They're complicated. They take some time, maybe some work, some faith, and you just have to really sometimes do your best and hope for the best, and pretty much just ends with them kind of fleeing away up in the mountains, trying to get someplace safe.
Yeah, I think the idea was that they were heading towards someplace like Switzerland or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Basically going to another location that is not being controlled by this regime, to where they could still, at least for as long as they can, maintain their freedom.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly where they wind up. Maybe it's expressed in the book written by Maria Von Trapp.
Yeah.
But, just kind of ends there on a somewhat uplifting note, but not like the most gratifying conclusion.
Yeah, not the cheeriest, but at the same time somewhat hopeful.
It's kind of like the VeggieTales interpretation of Josh and the Big Wall, like the Wall of Jericho, where it ends with them heading towards the better place, not necessarily getting there, but they're going towards, in this case, the Promised Land, whereas the Von Trapp family, they don't get there by the end of the movie, but they're heading towards a place where they can be free.
Yeah. One example that comes to my mind is how the movie Dead Poets Society starring Robin Williams ended. Basically, even though Williams' character might have been the one in the right or the guy with the right idea, he is kind of kicked out of his job in the end, and the kids are kind of forced to go back to the old aristocratic way of being educated in school. But the kids, fondly remember him and they salute him. It's kind of a bittersweet, so it doesn't work out the most favorable way or the most fair way, because life doesn't always work like that. But you just gotta hope it gets better, I guess.
Yeah, life is certainly not all sunshine and rainbows, but we can all at least try to be a little bit more like at least the musical/film adaptation of Maria Von Trapp, and try to find the optimistic side of things, even when things look bleak.
Yeah, and from what I know, they survived all this mess and had a successful musical career, and either way, it's a good story of family values, love, of loyalty, and so many good songs like The Lonely Goat Herd, which Julie Andrews also, by the way, performed on The Muppet Show, and Do Re Mi, and and 16 going on 17, and so many songs that are memorable and catchy, and so much to appreciate about it.
Yeah, and there's, as we expressed near the beginning, multiple ways you can check out this story. There's, of course, the film, there's the musical, there's the original book that one of the people from the actual family wrote. So if you're interested in this story in any capacity, there's many ways to check it out.
Yep. And, and that's pretty much The Sound of Music. And thank you all for streaming or listening, watching, and stream us on YouTube Music, and enjoy what we've got, and keep your questions and comments coming, whatever you got.
Yeah, if you have ideas for future episodes or anything you want to say about our previous ones, those are definitely more than welcome. If you have any questions about something, or you want us to clarify something we previously said, that's, of course, welcome as well. Just keep in touch, and we love to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, until next time, everybody take care.
So long, everyone.